Today's video is brought to you by AlmostHeaven.com. Handcrafting at-home saunas since 1977. Want better sleep, less stress, and faster recovery? Now's the perfect time. Shop saunas, cold plunges, hybrids, and accessories. Use our exclusive code at checkout to save 5%. Link below.
Back alongside Bo Parrish, I'm Dave Erickson. A new episode and a new topic, and it has to do with new beginnings and the whole idea of probably starting over and having a fresh start, but what everything goes along with going to uncharted territory and the fear associated with the unknown, Bo.
Well, Dave, it is a new day. It is a new experience, and appropriately titled, the topic of our conversation today, as we have been following the alphabet, just happens to be new. And as we were discussing before going live, it's funny how the very definition or the very meaning of this word new takes on a different meaning the further we progress in life. You remember as a 5, 6, 7, maybe even elementary school kid, on Christmas morning, you had wrap boxes that you knew inside there was something that was going to cause excitement because it was something different than what you were currently or had been experiencing. And whatever it was in that box, the anticipation of the newness that was represented in a wrap box was enough to get you excited. And at some point, whether it be high school, whether it be college, whether it be even in our early professional years, we start to resist anything new simply because it violates the comfort zone that we've created for ourselves. It's as if resistance to anything other than what I'm familiar with becomes dominant the further we get on our journey in life. And I don't know if that's just the harsh, cold realities of the world that we're living in. I don't know if it's the particular interests and talents that we develop, that we just develop this hard and fast routine that we cannot stray from, and anything new or outside of that box could potentially serve as a threat to the way that we've learned to navigate our lives, that we resist it automatically. It's like we automatically close our minds if it resembles anything other than what we're familiar with. And if you think of the very definition of new, it's that which is unknown, and it's a matter of our perception on the overall effect that it's going to have on us. If we go in and experience new as an opportunity, well, we can use the initial experience, that which is new, as a sounding board for what we can begin to build on. On the flip side, if we see something new not as an opportunity, but as an obstacle, we go through it once, we have a bad experience, and we vow never to do it again. Not only do we vow never to do it again, we make sure we never even put ourselves in that situation to experience that newness, and we further retreat into our comfort zones. We further close our minds. I have these conversations in my line of coaching, specifically financial advisors, every single day. And there's an interesting phenomenon that's going on in this business, in that the way that money has been managed for the last 50 years is slowly becoming irrelevant. And all of a sudden there's a new and different way, and I would actually argue better way of doing things, where your focus is simply on paying attention to the shifts in the different pockets that you have to invest in. You can invest in stocks, you can invest in bonds, you can invest in mutual funds, you can invest in ETFs. So there's all these choices, and can't say that I'm surprised now to the widespread availability of information thanks to technology and the internet. Whereas in the past, you bought something, you held on to it, and you assured your clients that no matter what happens, good or bad, the markets are going to go up and the markets are going to go down, but eventually they're going to come back. Well, that's just not relevant anymore. And so when I introduced this new way of investing, unfortunately, the first response I met with is, whoa, that doesn't sound like it's going to work for me. These guys haven't even given it a shot. They're just apprehensive about the very thought of doing something new. And so it's amazing the built-in resistance as human beings that we have to doing new things, having new experiences, trying new food, going new places. It really is a fantastic place to live. Unfortunately, the majority of our society never even gives themselves the opportunity to experience it.
You know, you were giving the analogy of when you were a kid and you want to try new things or open the present. I was thinking about kids and how fearless they are of exploring and trying new things. But the older we get, it's the fear of the unknown that holds us back as adults. And that's it's mind blowing because you're, like you said, there's that comfort zone. And the fact as adults, we know, as opposed to children, there are no guarantees with these new roads or these new ideas that we want to explore.
I love that you brought up the whole topic of fear. And I was listening to a podcast by a local business coach by the name of Dan Miller, and he was talking about this very concept of fear. And he was contrasting two distinct personalities, the first of which he called reactors, and the second of which he called proactors. And he said the primary difference, underlying topic being fear, between the way reactors and proactors handled their fears is that reactors, they act on their concerns. Now you think about what causes concern. The uncontrollables, that which is pushed out to us via multimedia, whether it's TV, whether it's internet, whether it's radio. We have these media heads that are talking to us about the horrific things that are happening in our lives across the world, in our country, in our backyard. There have been more acts of terror this year alone than I even want to begin to think about. But reactors, they let their fear cloud out their forward thinking. And so they lose concept of everything in their life that matters, that which they can control, and they immediately react to what is concerning them. And you think about the difference between a reaction and a proaction, and I know that's not necessarily a word, but the truth that I'm trying to communicate here is that reactors are emotionally charged. And the two most dominant emotions in the human mind, particularly when it comes to decisions, are fear on one end of the spectrum and greed on the other end of the spectrum. And so just think about the decisions that you've made in your life, the best decisions, the worst decisions. And if you can reflect upon the worst decisions, my guess is that was very emotionally charged and fear was leading you. As you said, fear of the unknown is a huge limiting factor to us as human beings, particularly as adults, because I agree with you. You ask any 5-year-old kid what they want to be for a living, you're going to hear Superman, you're going to hear a firefighter, you're going to hear a police officer, you're not going to hear an accountant, or a lawyer or a public service worker. On the flip side, proactors, and the way Dan said it is, proactors act on the controllables. In other words, it's not that they're not aware of all the things that cause reactors to be fearful. After all, we all have access to the same information. It's just they tune it out. They focus on their immediate surroundings, the people in their lives. Just think about if we were able to live 1 week without watching TV, without plugging into our Facebook feed, with just spending time around our wives, our husbands, our kids, our parents, our friends, the overall outlook we would have on life after that 1 week period. Because I gotta believe in nature, people are positive at the heart. And if all they have is exposure to one another, that tendency for fear to creep up, it is less and less the further we remove ourselves from technology and mass media and what's going on all across the world right now. And so it's willing to embrace that fear, because in the absence of experience, you definitely have a wide open slate. You have a whiteboard. I know you like to keep a whiteboard in your room. That whiteboard is empty, because until you've done it, you don't know what to expect. But failure is absolutely, as we previously discussed, failure is part of the process if you're ever going to get there. And the only way that you have experience is to evaluate your overall experience the first time you do it, the second time you do it, the third time you do it. It gets easier and easier and easier. And my hope, and what I encourage people to accomplish on a daily basis, is to leave the friendly confines of your comfort zone. Because if you do the same thing over and over and over, you are never going to experience any personal growth. You're going to be completely self-absorbed, attracted to the comfort in the known, and your creativity is going to be squashed. And at some point, you're ultimately going to be no good to anyone around you, because you're so close-minded to the fact that anything new truly does become a threat.
So this whole starting over concept really has been given a bad rap if we associate fear with it. What kind of action steps can someone take when they are beginning something new?
Well, so a good friend of mine here in Nashville, a guy by the name of John Acuff, wrote a book that was a New York Times bestseller called Quitter. And it was about this very concept of starting over. And one of the things that he was very careful to point out is, do not leave your day job to pursue your dream job. And that's just at the heart of that statement is responsibility. Because you think about the world we live in today, and just the changing nature of the workforce, is that no one goes to work for 30 years anymore and retires with a gold watch. People are presented with dynamic opportunities on an ongoing basis that can easily be taken advantage of without foregoing the investment you have right in front of you. So the day job per se is what's expected of you. It's time. It's you show up, you perform a task, and then you leave. And whether you love it, you hate it, or you're indifferent about it, it's paying the bills. Well, obviously we have to live within the rules that society has dictated for us. We have bills to pay, we have mortgages, we want to take trips, we want to spend. So the day job has to remain, but it doesn't mean the dream or the newness of doing something different, exactly what you're doing right now. You are building your multimedia empire, and you are getting better and better every single day with the experiences that you have, the relationships you're forming, the advice you're gaining, and then in turn, the teaching that you are unknowingly providing to would-be hopeful podcast hosts, me being one who learns so much from you, is that you're growing in this experience. It's still new, considering your past as a traditional news anchor that was very much a routine that you were plugged into. But what you didn't know at the time is that was setting you up for the experience that you're having now. Now, the fact that it hasn't immediately taken off like you had hoped, and that's a very small percentage that's going to happen overnight. Dreams, I love a quote that the secret to overnight success is 30 years of hard work. Now that's the opposite in the extreme, but dreams aren't built overnight. Is that you are making incremental progress and you are tracking that through the form of taking notes. here's the thing. People forget, paper does not. What gets written gets remembered. And so the fact that you now had this experience that you've already evaluated puts you that much more in a position to succeed. Now, you're still in new waters. You're still having new experiences, which keeps you fresh, dynamic. It keeps your curiosity alive. And a curious mind, an inquisitive mind, is one that is always going to outperform that closed mind. You can't tell me anything because I've already experienced it, everything. You know, those people out there, when you're with them, you never want to begin a conversation with, guess what? Because they're like, no, you can't tell me anything new because I've already been there. You know, you can't share anything new. I don't like being around those types of people because they crush my enthusiasm. Those are the types of people that resist this whole concept of new. And so coming full circle, you know, the best way to progress from the known to the unknown is just one step at a time. But you need to stop talking about doing it if you're truly sincere about doing it, and start doing it. Because the best thing you can do is start, not to just continue to form a plan about what it looks like to start. Just get out there and do it, and then regroup and do it better the next day, and then the next day and the next day. And all of a sudden, this newness becomes intoxicating.
Bo, I want to put you on the spot here. What has been your most recent new venture or experience that presented a lot of fear that you are taking on right now?
Well, I'm living it right now, and that is promoting the launch of my book, which is literally 3 weeks away. It was hard enough for me to actually put the work together, which had been a 10-year goal of mine, and I actually got it written within about a 6-month period. But now that I've had to do all the things that I don't necessarily love to do, like editing and book design and cover, and is that we're finally in a position to launch this thing. And these next 3 weeks, it is, how do I promote this in a way that doesn't sound, well, too self-promotional? You know, how do I find the right way? Because I don't like doing that. I don't like putting myself up on that platform. I mean, the premise of my book is the problem with perfect. You know, I think it's a subject we can all relate to, but how do I do that in the most effective, humble way? And so I'm working with an agency who's helping me formulate a strategy. But Dave, I've never done this before, and I am as nervous as I can be, but I know that after this book launch, and again, the goal is just to get it out there so I can improve upon it with the next one. But I would say the next 3 weeks are going to be both nerve-wracking and exciting as I start to build and spread the word about my book being available on August 12th. So that's what's new for me.
So you're following your own advice of being proactive, and you have a plan, you have something that you want to launch, you're putting in place, these are my objectives. I've written them down, therefore they will be remembered. And once I have them there, I can really start to roll this out in a timely and efficient fashion.
That's right. And the plan is there. Doesn't mean it's the perfect plan, and it may bomb, but it will be executed upon because I have to encounter and take on every new experience with what I think is the best way to navigate the waters. My thoughts, whether they're true or not, ultimately will be known because this experience, this new experience, will be undertaken. And in 3 weeks, I'll have some results of which I can evaluate my original plan.
And with just one more minute left or so, what's been the biggest learnings from the last month or so of being a father of twins? Because that was a completely new environment.
Absolutely, is that I'm definitely not as smart as I thought I was. I'm definitely not as effective as I thought I was. And as great as I have felt in my recent business ventures and experiences, feeling like I was on top of the world, coming home and holding a crying baby, Charlie almost busted my eardrum on Sunday, just holding him in my ear. I could not do anything to get him to stop crying. And it's just understanding that this is the season. There's nothing I can do about it. And it's a humbling experience. But then, Dave, I got to say, just seeing him stop and smiling at me makes it all worth it.
Bo, thank you very much. What a great topic today. The whole concept of new, and that it's okay to venture out into the unknown, because as adults, there is a rainbow at the end of this storm for sure, and you just got to weather through it.
So we'll leave in these two very, very easy to understand concerns. You remember in the past when we were growing up, we would refer to anything that we liked as nice, nice. So let's just say new, nice.
Looking for a great at-home sauna at a great price? Get 5% off any indoor or outdoor sauna, cold plunge, or infrared sauna from Almost Heaven with my discount code DAVE, 5% off at checkout. For over 40 years, Almost Heaven saunas have been trusted as the top American home sauna manufacturer. Almost Heaven saunas deliver high-quality products and firmly stands behind the holistic benefits the sauna brings to your mind and your body. Again, get 5% off any order with my discount code DAVE, 5% off at almostheaven.com. There's also a direct link below this video.